My son's girlfriend saw me wearing muddy boots. She turned to my son and asked, "Why is the gardener eating with the family?" Then she ordered the butler, "Get the gardener out." The dining room fell into complete silence. My son paused for a moment, but he didn't get angry. Instead, he calmly asked her one question. "Do you know why he's the only one at this table who still eats standing up sometimes?" She blinked at him like he'd asked her to solve a riddle in a language she didn't speak. "I don't care why," she said. "The smell is ruining my appetite. Can someone please deal with this?" Nobody moved. The butler stood by the sideboard with his hands folded, watching my son instead of me, waiting to see what he'd do next. My son didn't raise his voice. He rarely did when something actually mattered. He turned back to her and asked what she thought I did for a living. "Groundskeeper, obviously," she said, waving a hand toward my boots. "Have you even been paid yet this week? You look like you could use it." I said nothing. I'd walked 6 hours through soaked fields that afternoon, checking drainage lines before the frost came in, and my knees were still aching under the table. I picked up my water glass and drank instead of answering, because answering wasn't really my job in that moment. It was his. The table had gone quiet in the particular way a room goes quiet right before something breaks. "Who's been paying your tuition for the last 4 years?" my son asked her. "My parents," she said, like it was obvious, like she couldn't understand why he'd asked something so basic in front of guests. "Check again," he said. She rolled her eyes and turned to the rest of the table, looking for someone to back her up, someone to tell her this was a strange thing to be arguing about over dinner. Nobody looked back at her. Her own cousin, seated 2 chairs down, suddenly found something fascinating about the tablecloth. "This is ridiculous," she said. "I know who pays my tuition. I've seen the statements." "Have you?" my son said. Not a question, really. More like he already knew the answer and was waiting for her to catch up to it. She laughed, short and disbelieving, and reached for her phone under the table like she was going to prove him wrong out of spite. "Fine. I'll call my mother right now and you can hear it for yourself." It rang twice before anyone picked up. In the pause, I watched her face, still certain, still annoyed, the kind of certainty that hasn't yet met anything strong enough to bend it. She held the phone up like evidence, like she was already composing the apology she thought she'd be owed. Her mother picked up on the second ring, voice cheerful and distracted, asking if everything was all right, if dinner was going well. My son leaned toward the phone before the girlfriend could get a word out and asked to speak to her directly. "Just 3 words," he said. "Ask him yourself." There was a pause on the other end, longer than it should have been for such a short sentence. I could hear something shift in the background, a chair being pulled out, a door closing. Then, her mother's voice changed completely, dropped into something careful and small, the tone of someone realizing mid-sentence that she'd already said too much to walk it back cleanly. "I didn't realize he was the one covering the account. I thought your father set that up before his surgery." The girlfriend's face didn't move for a second. Then it did, all at once, like something behind it had finally given way. She set the phone down on the table so gently it barely made a sound, and looked at my boots again, the same mud, the same cracked leather, except now she was looking at them like they'd rearranged themselves into something she didn't recognize. "I don't understand," she said quietly, to no one in particular. My son finally answered the question he'd asked her at the start of dinner. "He eats standing up sometimes," he said, "because he built this house with his own hands before either of us could walk, and he never got used to sitting like he's owed something just because his name is on the deed." The room stayed silent. Even the butler had stopped pretending to check the wine. "He's not the gardener," my son continued. "He's my father. He owns the estate, the company behind it, and every account your family has quietly depended on for longer than you've known me." Her mother's voice came thin through the phone, asking what was happening, why it had gone so quiet. Nobody answered her. The girlfriend's mouth opened and closed twice before anything came out. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "You never asked," I said. "You decided the moment you saw the mud." He didn't yell. He looked at her the way you look at something already decided and asked for the ring back before dessert was served. She set it down without a word and left the table.